Team Awesome is back!
That's right, Team Awesome is back with Tangled Talk with Team Awesome. It's episode 16. We are still on our hiatus, folks, and so we are still reviewing season 1. A reminder once again that we are actually reviewing the episodes in the order that they were produced, not the order that they were aired, because production order is actually the correct viewing order. So first of all, we have some news. The news came out that season 2 is completely animated now. Filmworks has finished animation on season 2, which means they're started up on season 3, which means that anytime Disney wants to start showing us more season 2, they've got it all. They can do it. Anytime. But actually, because of that, I am currently speculating that just like how we got 10 episodes of season 2, of the first half of season 2, just right in a row, I suspect that's how they're going to handle the second half of season 2. That once they start, they're just going to play it the rest of the way through, and then we'll be done.
So why do you think they would do that, and they didn't do that the first season?
Because the first season, they were still promoting it, and they were still trying to show us the episodes as soon as they were done, and they're blah, 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 blah.
Now they're just like, here, shut up.
Yeah, pretty much.
All right, whatever.
Okay, so season 2, that's our current predictions for what's going to happen. We know we're not getting any through December, like we said last time. Fingers crossed for January, folks.
Mm-hmm.
And
thanks for nothing, Disney. I wanted a birthday present, but whatever.
You're gonna be down here. You can hug Eugene for your birthday present.
Oh, that's true. Oh, Eugene.
Okay. On to our review, and we are picking up with Great Expotations. This was a high-key episode for a lot of people because finally Varian returned to the screen. We had all fallen in love with him. Well, many of us had fallen in love with him during What the Hair, and we knew from the beginning that he was going to be in the series to some significant amount because, for goodness sakes, his name was announced on the cast list well before the series started. So we're like, who is this teenage alchemist? And now we knew who he was, but where did he go? So he finally came back, and we finally, at the very end of the episode, we got some more of the actual main plot, which was like, sure, it was, a minute and a half of main plot, but that was a minute and a half more than we had before.
People were so amped up for that, and they were like, that's it.
Exactly. Like, that's it. The end. That's all you get of the plot. They were like, oh. This was another case where I remember the junior novelization came out before the episode did, and so I remember knowing what was going to happen in advance, and Cass was still on thin ice from Challenge of the Brave, and I'm like, and now she's doing the exact same thing to Varian, where she's, using him for his ability to get her work done so that she can go and do the thing that she wants to do instead. I mean, it wasn't literally the exact same thing she did to Rapunzel, but just like, she has not yet learned the power of friendship. She needs to go watch My Little Ponies. But I will have to say that one of the interesting things with this episode is that when I took a step back and just looked at the plot in a very vague way, it actually reads a lot like a classic fairy tale. If Cassandra was the protagonist of said classic fairy tale, because you have your heroine of the story and she has a goal, but she cannot achieve her goal before finishing what seems to be an endless list of tasks. And the tasks are completed and the goal is achieved with the help of her alchemist friend, who would be like, the fairy godmother or like the animal she meets in the woods or whatever else. But because she made this friend, her goal is achieved. But then she takes the friend for granted and trouble ensues. But in the end, she chooses to help the person who helped her. The day is saved and everybody learns a valuable lesson, except for the rich man and the charlatan who at least got the comeuppance. So I really, really like that. I kind of want to rewrite this episode as a fairy tale. Of course, I've been wanting to do that since the episode first aired, and we've seen how much that's happened. So I don't know if I'll ever get around to it, but hey, it's a thought on the back burner at least. I clearly didn't forget I wanted to do this because I am reviewing it right now and saying so. But this episode had a lot of good stuff going for it, not just Varian. I really loved them showing Rapunzel and her inventive mind, because stuck in that tower, we know she invented things all the freaking time, It's like she charted the stars all on her own. She only had 3 books to read, so clearly she figured out how to do everything herself. She probably Gothel stole her a guitar or something and she taught herself how to play it. She taught herself sewing, she taught herself cooking, she taught herself everything that she knew how to do, and she figured it all out on her own. And so having her inventing things, even things that were already invented. And I actually really like that. That was kind of a callback to a deleted scene from the original movie where she made up the word Yahweh to mean ouch, you know?
Yawa.
Yawa, thank you. Yawa to mean Yahweh. Yeah, right. Ha 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 ha. But Yahweh to mean ouch. And so she came up with a word for something that totally already existed in society. And so the fact that she kept inventing things that had already that already existed and naming them something else, like that was a throwback to that. Just her completely sheltered life and how she still managed to synchronize her mind with other people, just not quite in the exact same way. So I really loved all of her little inventions, and I love that Eugene just kind of went along with everything and, let her test things out. Well, not test things out necessarily. She didn't test the guillotine out on him, thank goodness. But, I mean, that vegetable slicer would have been quite painful on a digit or something else. But yeah, so I loved all of her inventions. And I love that in the end she came up with a giant freaking fan that was big enough to blow dry her own hair. Because, I mean, that's the thing you got to think about it, is that she invented this giant freaking fan because she needed a hairdryer, Like, no one else needs a hairdryer that large, which is why it frizzed Eugene's hair up. But it did give us the wet look, so.
Yes, plus the wet look.
So beautiful.
So beautiful. Honestly, for her part in the episode, Fernanda Pizzazzo cracked me up. Like, first of all, her whole look really was, in my mind, it was a callback to the Romani woman from the deleted scene, who then later on they just remade it anyway into Vigor and Madame Carnardes. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the whole look, it was very similar, because if you look at a lot of David Gilson's concept art, she was younger in some shots than in others. And so in the younger concepts, that's what she looked like. And that was kind of a cool little nod there. And also, I really like how all of her stage performance was, things like her oohing and awing herself and her having candy ready to throw to people so they'd like her better. Mm-hmm. And, she was all flash and no substance, but it was fun. I mean, like, one of the things I liked in the novelization is that they specified that when she had her little magnet ball thing that was floating, Varian's thought process was he figured out how to do that on his own when he was 4. So, like, this is just like a simple science trick. This isn't an invention, but she made it look like magic, and so everybody was so surprised and amazed. And so we got, I mean, honestly, because Varian was in this episode and because we got the little bit of main plot in this episode, I was like so sure that he was going to end up part of the main group and like protagonist friend thing. I mean, honestly, Queen for a Day was a shocker. So that was a lot of fun for me to have, Varian back again, to have Cassandra actually say sorry at the end. I was really happy that, even though it wasn't too Rapunzel, it was nice to see that she learned that she does need to apologize when she wrongs people. And I appreciated that. So I'm like, okay, that's actually a step in the right direction when it comes to Cassandra. So, I mean, I think after this episode, it's been an uphill, not an uphill climb, that sounds bad, but like it's been all uphill from here. Like, oh no, I like her better. I'm not so mad at her anymore after this episode. And I don't seem to, off the top of my head, I can't think of anything that she does that made me go, Cass, not again, after this point. So this was my turning point for Cassandra that solidified her as, okay, I actually do like her, and I think I can continue to like her. It's really interesting, because just sitting there and thinking about it and thinking back on, there was a time where I didn't really like Cassandra, and that's so weird, because it's like, I mean, I liked her from the very start, but I also didn't like her from the very start. It was hard trying to get the whole thing working together, and I don't know.
I miss her when she's like not in it.
Yeah.
Like in Vigor, I was like, I miss Cass.
She's not appropriate for this, but I do miss her presence.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was super fun. So after this was Under Wraps, and
This was the one that was about romance, but there was no new dream in it.
Right? Right? That was so
I noticed.
I mean, there was like a little
A
bit
little.
of dream,
Yeah.
just no like huggy kissy stuff because it
No.
wasn't about them.
Couldn't even see him
Um,
sign the book.
You know they signed the dang
I
book.
know, but I want to
Yeah.
see it.
But I mean, we had all that fun stuff. This is the one that really started solidifying my headcanon that Cass might be Arrow, because I'm like, she just literally does not understand romance. She just doesn't get it. It does not appeal to her in the slightest. And I'm like, therefore, my headcanon is, and granted, that might be proven wrong. We still have time. Classy looks like it's going to be a thing. But yeah, so I mean, that's where I was really coming from. And maybe she's just, I don't want to say needs to find the right person, because that's exactly that sort of toxic thing that people shouldn't be telling you if you're Ace or Arrow. But it's just, she has to have the whole, she doesn't understand it, and she needs to find a situation in which it makes sense to her. It might be that even once she's in a relationship, she's not overtly romantic with that person, which I really hope for, because it would be kind of cool to have a woman who isn't in a relationship and she's strong and independent, and she gets in a relationship and she remains strong and independent and doesn't change her personality like at all just because she's in a romance, So I hope so. Fingers crossed. But this really was a really, really good episode. And it is the first one that made me aware of Tom Caulfield, because he was posting boards and teasers on his Twitter account. And so, yeah, I mean, this is where I really became aware of him. And once I became aware of him, I was able to go back and start recognizing his work in previous episodes. So, I mean, and also this episode, it had that awesome, awesome opening with all of the paper art by Megan Bryan. That was amazing. First I was like, is that actual paper art, or is that really well done CGI? And they're like, oh no, it's paper art. We're like, oh, that's so cool. They did paper art in the opening. And this was our first real taste. I mean, because in the Return of Strongbow, we had that silhouette scene, but this was our first real taste that they were occasionally going to really get out of the box and start doing cool things with their animation. And so it was super duper awesome in that. And even before the episode aired, I thought Cassandra was going to be undercover, and I'm like, no, this isn't a romance. This is a fake romance. That dude's up to something, and she's playing him.
Oh, people were so afraid. They were like, this better be fake. She better be undercover. Well, she was.
That's because everyone was already like, Cass is gay.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, all right. I mean, I'm fine with that. I'm fine with her being whoever she wants to be, but I feel like the second we saw Cass, everyone was like, gay. And it's like, oh, okay. All right, we know nothing about her, but all right. Sure.
Apparently short hair means gay. I don't know.
And swords.
No, the first time we saw her, she just had an armload of hair, and that is all we saw.
True.
Yeah.
And people were still like, gay, look at her. Look at her hair, she's gay.
Gay.
Who is she and why is she gay?
Everyone was like, I love my new wife. And it's like, all right.
Yeah.
We don't know who she is, but all right. I respect that.
But yeah, so I mean, and I loved all the stuff that was going around, and I remember people being concerned that Andrew looked too Arab, and they're like, oh, that's kind of really playing on the racist thing. I'm like, he doesn't look Arab to me. He just looks like, man bun dude.
He looks
man bun dude.
He kind of looks like Hanzo from
he does.
Well, he does kind of look like Hanzo from Overwatch, but he also kind of looks like Hanzo from Kubo and the Two Strings.
See, and here's the funny thing is that I remember so many people comparing him to Hanzo, and I was like, oh yeah.
I was like, oh, it's Hanzo.
Coincidentally, him looking like Hanzo from Kubo is kind of hilarious because Shannon Tyndall, who is married to Megan, who did the paper art, worked on that movie.
Oh, that's funny.
She also worked on that movie, but yeah, right. I do. That's kind of funny.
That is funny.
Yeah, he looks. I
also remember very specifically that when we were looking at Tom's concept art, that looking at Hertz de Son and Champagne are like, they kind of sort of look like old designs of the King and Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, sort of.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, and now we're like, he kind of sort of looks like Edmund.
They've got that similar style to them.
They do. They do. They shop at the same store. But yeah, so one of the things I really liked in this episode is that Rapunzel had to be told more than once to stay out of Cassandra's business. But like when she's told by different people, they tell her in different ways. And I really appreciate that because like Cass is like, stay the hell out of my business.
Mm-hmm.
And Eugene is, is like, honey, maybe you should stay out of her business. They're just like, I love
like,
that
what? I can't stay out of people's business. That's
Gee, that is not my MO. Do you want me to be myself or not?
She's like, I've been out of people's business for 18 years. I'm going in. See ya.
Yeah.
She was so cute in this episode.
Like, I love Rapunzel so freaking much, and I know we had that episode where we were talking about people's flaws, and one of her flaws is that she can't keep her nose out of other people's business.
Yeah, she's trying her best.
She is. She's trying her best, sort of.
My favorite part in this episode, and it's like one of my favorite parts in the whole series so far, is when they go up in the hot air balloon, and she is so excited, and every time I see that, I'm like, you're so cute.
It's like a lantern!
Oh my god, it's my favorite
honestly,
part.
The first time I saw this episode, I'm like, oh my god, she's in a floating lantern, and she's like, it's like a floating lantern.
She's
like,
losing her mind.
Perfect. It was so great.
It's so good.
And then, like, Eugene being so easily swayed by, hey, do you want to play with the doohickey? He's like, I want to play with the doohickey.
That noise he makes, he's like, what does he do? He like squeals, I think.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
And speaking of Eugene,
oh my god, yes, bibliophilic.
And noises when he punches the book and goes bibliophilic and uses it like a curse. That is like my favorite thing ever. I love that so much. Bibliophilic is the best swear word ever. I mean, everybody was so on point in this episode. Yeah. It was so great. I loved to see it. I loved that we got more of Xavier. Because I mean, like, finally, because we had only seen, had we really seen any of Xavier before this? This is our introduction to Xavier.
Yeah,
yeah.
I thought about that. I mean,
it was our introduction to him being an actual animated character. We knew about him forever, though.
Well, we knew about it forever, and he was in Lost Lagoon. But but this was the first time we actually got, like, the canon series, this is how we're portraying him. So that was really exciting. I was very excited to see him. I was also very interested to realize that they took a piece of jewelry to a blacksmith, which means that this dude is highly skilled and very trusted. Also, I am still not over, to this day, I am not over Eugene in the background with that morning star, like, just poking.
That is this episode.
And then they switched angles for the camera, and he's still doing it. And I'm like, oh my freaking god!
If he does that in what episode is it? I think it's Happiness Is. There's a point where you look in the background, and he's just like admiring a seashell.
Aww.
And every time I see it, I'm like, what are you doing?
He's so fidgety and cute. I love it. Oh, I remember when that was. Because he picked up the seashell and he was using it as, like, physical representation of the idol. I actually just rewatched the episode. So he was using it as a physical representation of the idol, and then he didn't put it down. So
he's just staring at it, and he doesn't have the idol.
What a dork.
I love him so much. Speaking of Eugene, so obviously he had that insecurity with Rapunzel thinking Andrew was handsome. She didn't even say he was more handsome than Eugene. She just said that he was handsome at all, and he got kind of defensive. But I actually came up with this beautifully sad headcanon about that. The beautifully sad headcanon was that part of why he's so interested in and protective of his looks is because he was told at the orphanage, like probably many times, that it's a good thing you're handsome because you're never going to make anything out of yourself and you're going to have to get by in your looks.
Wow.
And so, like, a kid,
Wow, Becky.
That's far.
That's too much. You've gone too far.
So, like, a kid's, like, bound to internalize stuff like that, right? And so, ever since then, he's been really, like, entangled. He's like, not the face, not the face, not the face. I mean, I just can't get my nose right.
Mm-hmm.
He's really, like, he wants people to recognize how handsome he is because he thinks that's the only value he's got. And I'm just like, oh, sad headcanon Becky, why?
No.
Why did you do that to yourself?
Don't do it. I love it. Continue. That's so funny when they're tied up in that one scene and he's like, well. He doesn't even take it seriously. He's funny.
Yeah.
But this is also the episode that starts showing that Eugene is actually starting to get a little out of shape, which is kind of awesome.
Oh, yes.
Like running around and like losing his air, like he's got no air and stamina left, and Rapunzel's like totally fine. He's like, oh my god, you keep going, I'll catch up. Holy crap. Just like, oh my god, Eugene, seriously.
He's doing his best.
It's so great. Yeah, so Eugene is hysterically awesome in this episode, and this is the episode that first gave us that beautiful Eugene is running and his hair, his swishing motion.
Oh.
And
Swish,
like,
swish, swish, swish.
I gift it because I'm like, I can't help it. I stare at this. It's beautiful.
It's great. His hair, all the time. It's so great.
Oh yeah, it's so great all the time.
Yeah.
All the time. It's wonderful. And this is like when we started finding out that they actually like hand animate the special hair movements also.
I appreciate that so much.
Yep.
I do too, because like when they're not hand animated, you can tell, you know? But
Yep.
it's like you get a lot of like little like the stray locks bouncing and things like that. That's all because they hand animate that stuff. So I love that this whole series is a combo of CGI and hand animation, and that actually adds a lot of depth to it.
I love that someone's like assigned to do Eugene's bangs. That's so much job. Living the dream.
But also, so this episode introduced the idea of the separatists of Seporia, and it's like, more please. That is like the political intrigue that I am totally into. Like, I'm not even really into political intrigue, and I am all about that. Like, so much. I'm just like, no, I need more of this, because that's like a real actual threat, and it's kind of like, I don't want to say it's parallel to the real world, but it is reminiscent of the real world. So I'm like, please, Corona, tell me how to handle my life, you know? So, I mean, I really love that aspect. And so I really hope that this isn't the last we've seen of them, although it wouldn't surprise me if it was. But if, like, it's not, then we're probably not going to get any more of it until season 3. Yeah. Unless they're just, like, kind of talked about by someone else. Like, maybe when they get to the Dark Kingdom, Edmund will be like, blah, 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 separatists of Seporia. And they'll be like, what do you know about that? And anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. Apparently I am like bound and determined to bring him into this episode.
Yeah. Who are you, me?
That was great.
So also, this is the episode that gave us like some seriously good Cassandra stuff, because it's like we got her whole like hair blowing delicately in the breeze and her tucking the lock of hair out of her face, and this is the one where we got like her straight up sucker punch, which is like possibly the greatest moment of Cassandra's in the entire series, is when she sucker punches Andrew. It's just like gorgeous. And the funny thing is that the rose at the end, like, that brought up a lot of fandom speculation, because some people think it's from Andrew. Some people think it's from random other person, possibly woman. I know that some people are under the impression that Varian somehow got it in there.
How?
I haven't heard that one yet.
How?
I haven't heard a lot of that one, but I had at least seen it mentioned at some point in the past. I couldn't even tell you who brought it up, but I had seen it. Well, what if it was Varian?
No, I think she knows who it's from, and I don't think she would be like that if it was Varian.
She wouldn't make that face if it was Varian. She wouldn't. She just wouldn't.
No, she
Andrew,
wouldn't.
for that matter. Honestly, the people who think that she Andrew. I'm like, no, there was like literally they were playing each other. There was nothing real there at all. Like, he wants her dead, and she wants him arrested, and she got what she wanted, and he did not get what he wanted, and that's the end of that story. But also, I have seen, like, I was talking to somebody who works on the show right now. I can't remember who exactly it was, but they were saying that they speculated, which means that even the crew doesn't know what was up with that they speculated that it was more of just showing that she actually was open to romance, whereas at the beginning of the episode, she was tearing up paper hearts because she's like, ew, romance. And that was just that the idea of romance is not lost on her. And so I'm like, okay, I can respect that. That's a good way to look at it. But the point being that there is no canon answer to who that rose is from. It's just leave it up to your own interpretation, you know?
But I want to know.
But don't make it up.
All right.
Interpretation. Who do you want it to be from? Anyway, another thing I love about this episode, and this is not about the episode itself, but about the people who work on the show, is that because this episode introduced Andrew, it also started up the whole thing that Tom and Kate do for us, which is Andrew versus Varian. And I freaking love Andrew versus Varian because it is based on literally nothing more than Varian has a crush on Andrew, on Andrew. There we go. Perfect.
New ship.
Oh
New
my
ship. Very Andrew. I love it. Varian has a crush on Cassandra, and Andrew actually went on a date with Cassandra. And that's like all it's actually based on. And I love how crazy it goes. And it's gotten to the point where it's like Cassandra's not even a factor in their fighting anymore. They fight just to fight. It's just amazing. I love it. And that is part of the reason why I was hoping that there would be that whole like all the villains get together and break out of jail together, because I would have loved to have seen Varian and Andrew like even have a passing conversation about Cassandra would have been amazing. Like, it's like, oh, blah, 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 Rapunzel and Eugene and Cassandra. Oh, you know Cassandra? I dated Cassandra. You dated Cassandra? You know? Beautiful. And yeah, so yeah, thanks to Tom and Kate who give us that, and when they have the opportunity to give us that, and yeah, I love it. That's some great art we got going on there. And so now we come upon the next episode, which was also delightful and in a completely different way, because honestly, we'd had a couple of relatively serious episodes in a row at this point, you know? And so then they hit us with One Angry Princess, which was simultaneously serious and very goofy. Like,
I love this episode. Every time I watch it, it's even better.
They have some seriously weird, silly stuff going on. And it's like turning the whole thing into CSI Corona was like amazing. Like with the timestamps and everything. And with Shorty being like goat toward the end. And it's just like
so good.
Oh my God. I lost my mind. It was so freaking funny. So I love one of the things I loved about this episode is that it once again highlighted Rapunzel's real intelligence. And like because there was a mystery and everybody else was just willing to write it off as, you know, what had appeared on the surface. And she's like, no, I believe this dude. And so I'm going to figure out how to prove it wasn't him without him having to tell me anything.
She's like, I've been reading about law. And I was like, all right, girl.
And Frederick was all like, you've been doing what now? And so it's like, dude, you're like, she's going to be the queen someday. It's actually really good for her to be like studying law, you know? So Rapunzel playing a lawyer was awesome. And honestly, I had this thing figured out like so fast. But despite that, because I had it figured out so fast, I really enjoyed watching them throw red herrings around and the lead up to the conclusion of the episode. And, you know, Monty and all of his squinting. And then at the end, he's like, oh, I keep forgetting to wear my glasses and then I can't read and I squint. Like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? It was so great. I mean, and then also this is like the first real interaction that Rapunzel and Monty had since Rapunzel's enemy. And so this showed that they still aren't really on good terms with each other, and they greet each other so coldly and formally, the whole Rapunzel, Montgomery. It's just like everyone else calls him Uncle Monty and she calls him Montgomery. And it's so great. And this is also like we had the great moment in the candy shop where first of all, you had, you know, Eugene getting on hands and knees to clean Rapunzel's feet off for her, which is like oh my god, that murdered me with how cute that was.
It was so cute.
That was like unnecessary and adorable, and I loved it. It was great. And then also, like, in that same scene, we had Cassandra just outright stick her foot in her mouth, and it was just, like, tops. It was great. I actually really, I mean, one of the things I like about that is it shows that Cassandra, while Cassandra is smart, she doesn't make a lot of effort to think too deeply, and you can see that reflected in actually the captain. The captain is very quick to take things at face value. And, I mean, because honestly, he's just trained to think that the easiest solution is probably the correct solution. And that just causes him to not look more deeply, even when it would be a very good idea for him to do so. And he passed it on to Cass. She looks for the simplest answer instead of, the, roundabout, possibly more complicated way of looking at things. And I just love that while the characters influence each other, no two characters start actually acting like each other, not like, in a big way. Like, sure, small things, people pick up mannerisms, they pick up trains of thought, they understand how their friends work better. But, like, Cass has not stopped thinking in a linear way. And I really appreciate that about the show. And yes, absolutely, this is the episode where Eugene falls asleep in Rapunzel's room.
I was shooketh.
4 morning, and she just puts a blanket on him and lets him sleep there.
Because for forever, we were like, they can't even, like, be in each other's rooms at night. It's against the rules. It's bad. And he's just, like, asleep in her room at 4 a.m, and it's no one gives any shits. And it's like,
there's like,
oh,
no,
yes!
Like, no, he's just asleep in her room, and it was great.
So good.
They could have cuddled after that. We don't even know.
Oh my god.
So cute.
Oh.
I mean, for all we know, she, like, kept working on the thing, and then she's like, okay, I'm finally too tired to stay awake. I'm just going to lay down here right next to him. Just snuggle up. So this episode also had the line, which was kind of said in the background of, don't make me go full smolder on you. But now we know that there actually is a full smolder because
of Blaze.
I was not prepared, honestly, for the simmer and the blaze. Like,
someone on the writing team is looking out for us.
Seriously.
I wonder if there's any more levels, and I can't wait to see what they are.
Please let there be more.
I don't know who wrote King Pascal, but I know that Ricky wrote Happiness Is. So Ricky is responsible for the blaze.
The Blaze!
Oh, man.
I'm sorry. The simmer was from There's Something About Hookfoot.
There's so many, I forget.
The simmer.
So Rapunzel's like, let's not worry about that.
That's a good. I mean, I just honestly I rewatched those last 2 episodes this week, and I'm just like, I miss my show.
I know.
I need it back. I'm holding it together as best as I can, but I need it back. It's so great, and I miss it. Okay.
We're being patient.
But more when it comes to, like, the silliness of this episode. Like, what the heck was up with Old Lady Crowley in this episode? Like, sure, being all, like, on and on about her plumbagos, which is, like, her personal running gag. That's great and all. But, like, that whole sliding against the wall and, like, vanishing in a flash of light behind the hedge. Like, what the heck was with Old Lady Crowley in this episode? It was so surreal. I loved it so much. Like, this episode had me laughing so hard. Like, I was not expecting something this freaking funny. And while also highlighting Rapunzel's, like, skill and knowledge, and it was beautiful and it was wonderful, and it also gave us another nod to concept art, because when she was charging down the docks on Max going after the boat and her hair was all flying behind her, like, that was, like, straight out of the concept art of her and the pub thugs charging off to the rescue for Eugene. So that's like that was like the concept art right there, and that was beautiful, and I loved it. So yeah, that was this whole episode. It's fun and silly and wonderful. And it is, fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure how you guys are going to take this, but this is our stopping point for today, because the next episode is Queen for a Day. And
shock.
Yes.
Shock. So we are going to be talking about Queen for a Day on our next podcast, and we might go into Painter's Block too, but for all we know, Queen for a Day is going to take the whole episode, and what a better episode to air around Christmas than Queen for a Day.
Yes. Everyone's favorite Christmas movie.
Everybody's favorite Christmas movie, Queen for a Day. Look at this wonderful fun romp in the snow with Doom.
Oh, man.
Life-changing Christmas episode. Oh, so guys, thank you once again for joining us, and we always appreciate that we've got listeners. We're always appreciating the comments, and we are always appreciating suggestions. We haven't gotten any in a while, but if you have something you'd like to see us talk about, go ahead and let us know. We're also probably going to take a break from the actual episode reviews soon, because we had a suggestion at one point that people want to see our collections, and with Christmas coming up, we know that those collections are about to grow. So that being the case, we're going to wait until after Christmas, and then we're going to do an episode dedicated to our collections. And that's going to be interesting because that one might actually involve like video footage. So,
ooh, fancy.
Yeah,
you guys
we'll
have
see.
to watch the screen.
It can also just be like a slideshow of pictures.
We can do slideshow, we can do video, we can do however we want. But point being, it's going to be an extra special episode because it's not going to be just sit there and listen to us talk. It's going to be, no, we have stuff to show you. Look at all of our pretty things. So yeah, ready for that, guys. And once again, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye.